Hi, I'm Missy with On William Street, and we are here to help you become a more confident quilter, from the piecing to the quilting and everything in between. This week we are back with one of our quilting tips, and this one is really great as you're putting your blocks together. We are going to talk about nesting seams. So when you're nesting seams, when you're working on blocks, when you've got everything going in the same direction, you can end up with a lot of bulk in your seams. So if you've got both of these, you're going to end up with a lot of bulk on this side and nothing on this side. And that just makes it really difficult as you're piecing your quilt together, and then also when you're getting to the quilting portion. So nesting those seams is going to just help reduce the bulk and just make your quilt top just so much more smooth as you're putting it together. So I have all of the pieces here for just a simple Ohio star block. We have not ironed these yet. All I've done is sew the half square triangles to each other in rows, and I'm going to show you as we talk about these nesting the seams. So what we're going to do is right now, if you went ahead to the iron and ironed all of these going the same direction, as I mentioned, I want to show you up close that bulk that you're going to end up. You're going to end up with a nice big, you've got 1, 2, 3, 6 layers right there, and then 2 layers here. So that's going to really add a little bit of a bubble with your quilt. When we nest our seams, what we're going to do is we're going to iron one direction and the other one the other direction. And then when we put those seams together, we're going to end up with 1, 2, 3, 4 on each side. So both sides are going to have 4 layers each, and this is also really great with your precision piecing. So when you nest those seams up against each other, that's going to make your lines line up really nicely. So let's go over to the iron, and we're going to get these ironed out, and then I'm going to show you also how I use pins just to make sure that I keep those seams going the right direction. So one thing with this technique is you definitely want to lay your quilt block out. And this is going to help you so you make sure that you're ironing the right direction that you want to. I always like to do this because otherwise I have a tendency to forget which way I ironed, and then I have to just then go back to the iron and re-iron that, and I don't want to have to do that. So we're going to take this one, and I'm going to iron all of these seams down going the same direction. So just give them a nice good press. Then I'm going to flip that back over with my block, and I can now see I've got that little bit of a ghosting that I can tell my seams are going that direction. So that means this row needs to go the opposite direction. So I'm going to flip it over, and it looks like I'm ironing it the same direction just because I flipped the block over so I can still iron away from me instead of towards me. So then as we put our piece back down, we can see, I'm actually going to flip these over. You can see that this is going one direction, this is going the next direction. So we're going to be able to nest those seams up nicely. So we're going to do the same thing with the next 2 rows. So this one, we want it to go this direction. And then when we flip this back over, we're going to be going the same direction as this. And then this one, again, we're going to go the same direction as this one. So we'll flip this one. And I want to make sure that I'm not ironing my half square triangle seams crooked as I'm doing this too, because we're reducing seam bulk, not adding more. Now that we have everything ironed, I'm going to flip them all over again and just show you how these are all going the opposite direction of each other. And then we're going to go back to the cutting table, and I'm going to show you how I pin these. But this is also something that's going to help, as I mentioned, with your precision piecing. It's going to help you get really nice points on there. And that's why I add pins to this as I'm doing, because it just gives me that additional precision. Now that we've got our ironing done, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take each of the rows. And as I mentioned, when we're nesting them up, you can kind of feel with your fingers, just kind of as you move your fabric, just press them together until you meet right there at that seam. And then we're going to stick a pin in there, and then I'm just going to go to the next one. I'm just going to kind of move it along until I get it nested right up. I can flip it over just to double check, make sure it's nested right up against that seam. And then when we get that sewn, we'll be able to flip over, and you're going to be able to see that you've got the bulk, and then also that our points should be really nice. We've got these two rows sewn together, and as you can see, we've got some really nice points here with these nesting these seams. So we're going to go ahead and we'll repeat that with the second half. And then we're going to sew those two pieces together again, following that same process. So I'm going to grab my pins, and I'm going to nest these seams as I mentioned, just kind of wiggle them up until you get those out right next to each other. And then add your pins, and then go ahead and sew your 1/4 of an inch seam. So we have our finished Ohio star block with our nesting seams. Another tip that I just want to point out, when you're nesting your seams and you're doing, especially with half square triangles, a lot of times when I'm sewing the rows together, I'm going to press those open instead of pressing them one way or another. And this again is just going to help reduce some of that bulk where those seams all meet. So if you like these, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell so you can see additional tips as we share them, and make sure that you can follow us on YouTube and Facebook. You can see what we're doing. Subscribe to our newsletter. We like to share lots of goodies with our subscribers, and we will see you next week.